The big thing about our work is that it's what we call heart-centered. And I believe, as I said already, humanity is making this massive shift from head-based, cognitively based, to heart-based, being feeling qualitative-based, quality of our life. And this shift that we're making, I would say, is as big or bigger than the shift that happened when Nicholas Copernicus suggested that the Earth goes around the sun rather than the other way around. And that was such a radical idea that I think he was put in jail. Certainly Galileo, who came 100 years after him, invented the telescope, was confined to house arrest for suggesting such heresy. But actually, that kind of a shift in consciousness is the same as what we're talking about here and what we'll be exploring in this session. So one of the pillars, not surprisingly, is what we call heart breathing. And the beautiful thing about the breath is that it helps us to connect in our body and to shift the energy. And how it works is that we tend to repress our emotions by constricting, by tightening up on the breath, right? And so when we start to focus on our breath, it does three things. First of all, it brings us into the present moment. So whenever you're conscious of your breath, you're here now, because not often we remember that great breath we took last week. So the breath is an anchor to the present moment. And all of our work is about connecting to the present, becoming more alive, more engaged, more connected to what actually exists. The second thing about the breath that's fabulous is that it energizes our body. So of course, we're taking in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide and all that. So we're energizing through the breath, and we use that in breath work to raise the energy in our body. And the third really important aspect of the breath is that it creates flow. So when we're stressed or uptight, we call it, we lock up in our body. And when we focus on our breath and we start to allow the breath to flow, what that does, it allows the energy in our body to flow. And what that does, it allows everything to come back into harmony and balance again. So the three dimensions of heart breathing are, first of all, that it's a deep breath. It's belly to heart. So say helicopter with these swooped here. So you breathe down to your belly. So I want you just to do that now as I'm talking. Take a breath in down to your belly and up to your heart. So it's sometimes we call it a full breath. The second aspect of heart breathing is that the inhale is active and the exhale is passive. So you draw the breath in through the nose or through the mouth is fine. And then you breathe out and you let go. Just take a moment to be aware of that and consciously put the accent on the inhale, breathe in down to your belly and up to your heart, and then let go. And the third piece of the breath is that it's continuous, right, or connected. So that means we don't hold the breath at either end when we're doing the heart breathing. And that's the main breathing pattern we use for the core clearing breath work. So on a stress level, stress anxiety level, just in the chat, we're going to do a little experiment. Check into your body now and let me know on a scale of 1 to 10 how you're going, just intuitively. Don't, no one's going to be measured on it, but just check in where you're at. Gordana's 8, Diana's 2, Iona 4, Dan 4, Della 3, Jeffrey 6. Yeah, thank you. You can't get this wrong. Lynn's a 4, Susan's a 7, right? Mary's a 1, Marlon's 2. Mary must have been down the beach today having a coffee. Carly's a 6, Kate's a 2. Fantastic. Thanks everybody for joining in. Okay, so I want to guide you through this breathing, the heart breathing, for 1 minute, and let's check in again and see what's happening to your stress levels. So let your eyes close. It's very simple. And bring your attention to your breath. Drawing the breath in through the nose is fine. A deep breath. See if you can deepen your breath. So breathing down to your belly, feeling up to your chest, and then let the breath go. Just let the air fall out. Draw the breath in, belly, chest, and let go. Staying with your breath, draw the breath in again, belly, chest, just nice and gentle is great, and then let go. So if you can feel that feeling of letting go as you breathe out. Great. Again, gently drawing the breath in, down to your belly and up to your chest, and letting go. Just letting the natural flow of the breath at its own rhythm happen. Drawing the breath gently in, belly, chest, and letting go. Awesome. Okay, so now gently bring yourself back and let your eyes open and check in again. The stress, anxiety level from 1 to 10 in the chat. Love to see where you're at. Kate's a 2. It went from close to sleep. So great. Oh, yeah. Kate. Susan's a 4 from a 6. Great. Dan's a 2. I think you might have been a 4 or 2, Dan. Marlon's a 1. 2. Gordana's a 4. Fantastic. Yeah. Carly's, I think you were 6 before we, Carly, to 5. In 4 to 2. Great. Fantastic. So close to 50% shift for a lot of people in that. Now, I've got a big clock with a sweep hand here, and we did that for 60 seconds, right? So I was timing it. So that was 1 minute of focusing on your breath creates a substantial shift in where your energy's at. So something to take away from here is if you're feeling a bit stressed or anxious in your day, just come back to your breath, because it's a really powerful way of accessing that subconscious parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system. So I want to talk about some of the core principles in the core clearing process. And the core clearing breath work originated when I was doing a lot of life coaching about 7 years ago on the phone. And for 15 years before that, I'd been doing a lot of lying down breathwork sessions with people. And when I was coaching, it's a bit harder to get them to lie down while I'm talking to them on the phone. And so I developed this technique for helping people to access the subconscious emotional blocks that are holding them back in their life and clear them. And it turned out to be a really powerful technique. And I packaged it up and presented as a process now that people are picking up all around the world and getting great shifts with it. The big thing that I discovered back then when I was coaching people is that we get stuck by trying to avoid doing what's going to activate our subconscious unprocessed emotions. So what that means is that when you're procrastinating or you're self-sabotaging, you're actually protecting yourself from something that's in your subconscious that could get activated if you took action on it. For instance, I had a guy I was coaching who was also a life coach, but he wasn't doing any marketing, and he was beating himself up about procrastinating about his marketing. So we did a core clearing session with him, and I took him inside and down through the layers. And the first thing that came up was that he was angry at his pro bono clients when he was doing his coach training who didn't do what he told them to do. So subconsciously, he didn't want anyone else not doing what he told them to do. So he's blocking himself from getting clients. So he processed that through, and then he went deeper and found that actually he didn't want to be a coach right now. In fact, he bought the property next door, he wanted to do this development, and unconsciously, strangely enough, he actually didn't want to do any coaching because he thought reasonably that it was going to get in the way of him doing this building development that he really wanted to get into. So before the session, he had no idea of that. And the beautiful thing about it was that he actually understood himself more and could see the good purpose in not doing any marketing for his coaching, which meant that it took the shame off him. And so he could just let it go and focus on where he really wanted to go. So that's what I find all the time. And this is the power of the core clearing breath work, is that we help people to drop underneath the stuff that's in our head, what we think are the issues, and actually connect to, usually it's some kind of past trauma that's incomplete, that is like parallel to what we're looking at, that could get activated. So for instance, another example would be people that avoid conflict probably have witnessed conflict or been in conflict in the past. And so actually, you know, the risk of having a conflict is so big, and the emotional charge on that so big, that those people often will become submissive and go out of integrity with themselves in order to avoid having a conflict. So they actually have this unprocessed trauma in the past that's blocking them from living and speaking their truth. The next principle that we use a lot in the core clearing breathwork is that change happens when we experience what is. So this is a really magical aspect of breathwork that really underpins everything that we do, because what we do with breathwork is we focus on the breath, and then we allow whatever happens to happen, right? And if you think about that, that's like opening up to whatever. You know, are you mad? That's like losing control. But underpinning breathwork is this principle that actually healing happens, or peace happens, or love happens, or integration happens when we experience what is. And so what we're doing in the core clearing breathwork is we're bringing people into relationship with themselves and helping them to connect more deeply with what's already present. And the interesting thing is, when people do that, they shift, right? So we don't make the changes happen. They actually happen when we experience what's going on. And so what we're talking about here is this basic goodness, this tendency towards wholeness and health and happiness that's innate in life, that, you know, that the body is built for peace and happiness and love and contentment and abundance. And the reason why we don't experience those things is because we've shut down and blocked. And so we're holding ourselves in a state of lack, in a state of block. And so with core clearing breathwork, we're just very gently bringing people up to connect to what's really going on at deeper and deeper levels. And when people feel that, they shift. And that could be physical pain in the body. It could be anger, it could be fear, anxiety, sadness, whatever it is. What we find is that when people actually feel what they're feeling, they heal. So sometimes you might have heard it, the healing is in the feeling. Or another way we say this, Susie loved this, is we help people clear the subconscious emotional, how do we go? Clear the subconscious emotional feelings that cause issues in our life, something like that. So that's a really beautiful principle to reflect on. So some other heart-centered living principles are that we're working with all the time in the core clearing breathwork is that we're living with presence. So as a facilitator and as a father, as a partner, as a friend, it's the quality of our presence that impacts people the most. Not what we think, not our opinions, not what we say, but how open we are with people, how much in relationship are we with them, how embodied in ourselves are we. And so the focus in the core clearing breathwork is to become embodied, because when you're present in yourself, everything functions at its peak. So physically, you perform better. In fact, that is what the zone is. Mentally, you think more clearly. Intuitively, you're more in touch with your intuition. In relationships, you're more patient and tolerant and kind and compassion when you're present with people. So presence for us is the path and the destination. So the second principle that we're working with is accepting rather than judging. So one of the beautiful things about core clearing is we're all the time saying yes to this, yes to this, yes to what is. Because when we say this is bad, this is wrong, we instantly start to contract around it, and then we get stuck. And so with the core clearing breathwork and the heart-centered living that we're doing, we're always saying yes to life. And what that does next is it allows us to allow the process that's unfolding without force, without pushing, without driving. And, I got chronic fatigue largely because I was pushing and driving myself using willpower. And the beautiful thing about this modality that's heart-centered is that it's based on surrender. It's based on letting go. It's based on trusting and allowing the process that wants to happen to unfold and to let it happen. So what we find is that when we get into the pushing, we actually create resistance. So there's pushback. Everyone knows that when somebody pushes you, you automatically feel like resisting it. And the same's happening with your feelings. And so when we're doing the core clearing breath work, we're all the time practicing opening up and welcoming in whatever we're feeling. And strangely enough, pain and discomfort actually diminishes when we do this and increases when we resist it. In fact, we say pain is a measure of resistance. So what all this adds up to is that we can actually make forward progress in clearing the blocks that are holding us back and living our life fully with gentleness rather than with force. And so then if you're going to do all this, how do you move forward? And the answer to that is we use what we call fearlessness or courage to step forward into situations that are uncomfortable, that can be scary, but actually we connect to our heart and trust that intuitive guidance of living an authentic life. And it's courage, it's the capacity to stay with discomfort and to move forward that really allows us to develop mastery and to ultimately, in this context, to heal, but in fact, to live life fully.